Hello and welcome to another episode of Growing Up B2B. I'm your host, Ed Delia. I'm the second generation president of Delia Associates, the place where family B2B brands go to grow. Now, today's guest stretches our traditional definition of a B2B, and I'm doing that intentionally. Michelle Gill is with us today, and she's the owner of Social, a regional salon that she has transformed from her father's original brand, Act 2, into something entirely her own. She's a second-generation business owner who stepped into a legacy operation, rebranded it, reshaped its culture, and rebuilt the model in a way that reflects her own values and vision. While a salon may not look like a typical B2B enterprise, the structure is fascinating. The stylists often operate almost as independent micro-businesses within the larger brand ecosystem. It's leadership, entrepreneurship, brand, and culture all under one roof. Michelle's story is about saying no before saying yes, learning the craft from the inside out, managing family dynamics, and ultimately putting her own mark on a legacy business. Michelle, welcome to Growing Up B2B.
Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to be with you today. So you kind of grew up around your father's salons. When you were younger, did you ever imagine that one day you would own it?
Well, let me reflect a little bit at what it was like to actually grow up in the salon. When I was young, it was my favorite place to go. It was my play area. We would show up and there'd be great music playing. I mean, this was back in the 70s, so it was all about disco and a lot of colorful people and shiny bottles, good smells, lots of gadgets and tools. And it was just so much fun to pick up a broom and just pretend I was part of the team, organize, those shiny bottles and just play. That's how I played. So it was a great place to grow up. And I think from the time I could walk, I really loved the industry. So I knew that. I actually have a school paper that I wrote when I was 9. And it says, what are the 3 things that you want to be when you grow up? And the number 1 thing was a hairdresser. The second and third was an author and a musician. So I'm still working on those other 2, actually. But anyway. But getting back to your question, did I think I would ever own a salon? I'd have to say no. To follow in my dad's footsteps wasn't something that pulled me. I really wanted to find my own way, and as a young child, and especially as a teenager and going off to college. So I really didn't see myself in that life, but I did know that I would be in the people business and in the relationship business.
So in fact, when we were first talking, you said that, when it was suggested that you go to hair school and eventually take over the business, this was early on, it wasn't, you didn't jump at it. You weren't entirely enthusiastic at that point. So when that was propositioned to you back then, what were you thinking in that moment? If you could take yourself back, like, your dad saying, hey, you should check out this path. You're thinking, well, I want to go a different path. So talk about that for a moment.
My dad was not responsible for getting me on this path. I have to tell you, it was my husband.
Okay.
He was the one who suggested it. And this came after I had been working in corporate. We were talking about having a large family, and Jim saw the opportunity of having a lot of flexibility in this industry. His mother was actually a hairstylist. So he grew up, so he grew up knowing what a working mom could do with this profession. So I'll give him all the credit for that. So,
okay.
Yeah. But he also saw the importance of learning every aspect of the business. It wasn't to manage and own a salon. Truly, I think it takes A, humility, and B, with any business, knowing the implications of every aspect of that business. So in going to hair school, learning the actual trade of it, that was one aspect. So it was very important that I did that. So I quit my job and enrolled full-time in a cosmetology school. And it wasn't a comfortable shift, I have to say, but it became really, really I feel like I found myself. And so I'm very grateful for that.
So I didn't realize that, and that's very interesting. Both you and your husband sort of had a bit of the same exposure in your upbringing. You were exposed to it as were you. So I bet there was a lot of synergy there in terms of understanding of what that life looked like. And certainly you were seeing it kind of from the outside or maybe adjacent to it. But then you did eventually say, yes, I'm going to pursue learning the craft. So talk about that for a minute. As you went through that experience in your journey, actually learning the techniques, how did that change or shift your perspective about the business overall?
Learning the craft was everything.
Okay.
There's like so many layers to it, to this profession, that being the most fun, I have to say. So learning that craft, and I'm still learning every day. We all are. But it was cosmetology school. Clearly, it's a means to an end. We all count down the hours. You need 1,200 hours here in New Jersey. I think it's still 1,200 hours until you get a license. But while you're in school and learning about the actual trade was one thing. How did it shift my perspective of the industry? It put me on a different playing field, on the same playing field, I think, with other industry professionals who would eventually be my colleagues, be my coworkers, maybe be my employees. So the craft is fun. The industry is wonderful, very dynamic. So
cool.
Yeah.
So then in 2017, at that point you were fully, I guess, immersed in the family business, right?
Yeah.
By 2017. And you rebranded Act Two into Social.
Right.
What did that name change represent to you beyond, hey, just a new name, new sign on the door?
Yeah. So my father had Act Two. That was his, I don't even know. I think he owned 3 salons at the time, that being his third. So in 2017, when the opportunity came up to purchase it, I definitely had 2 feet in and was very excited to actually do that. The salon world, and actually, fun fact, the word salon goes back to French 1700s, where salon would be a gathering place where people would come together and talk about culture and art and music and conversation. And that always really attracted me. And so plugging in the word social to it just kind of made sense.
Okay.
So it allowed me to bring into the future what the salon actually is. And, it is such a place of conversation and connection. That's really the best part about it, is the people and the conversations that go on in those 4 walls.
It's always staggering to kind of walk out of a salon and realize the volumes of information you've just imparted to the person behind the chair.
That's right. And you never know who you're going to actually know, too. We run into so many people. So, yeah. But, I also wanted the business to have a social component to it. And I mean, if you're going to build a community around your business, which hair salon is a community, I really think it should also do some good in that local community. So we've always been very active in the local community around where we're located. So social seemed to be the perfect name for the salon and the vision.
So what was the hardest part as you went through that process, Michelle, of putting your own mark on a business that already had a history and a legacy?
Purchasing an existing business in itself is a little like buying a house, right, that somebody else lived in. You respect the structure, but you still, you want to open the windows, you want to paint the walls, you want to tear some walls down. So it's been very meaningful. It's been difficult at times and a learning curve. My father built something that worked for a long time. So his mindset, though, is very much of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I respect that. So coming into the business as my own and making it my own, I've had to remind myself that you can do what you want now. I had a very strong plan on how I wanted things to look and smell and feel. And I saw this evolution as, the evolution is almost like building on that footprint of what he had. So this evolution of becoming something that was my brand with my colors was very important to me. So I think the hardest part was just staying true to myself and staying true to that vision.
And it sounds very clear that you had some definitive thoughts about how you wanted to move this forward. And it wasn't so much saying, well, I want to do it a little better than Dad. It's really, I've got a vision, I've got a horizon that I'm going to meet. And
It's, bringing in different products, doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's all in the best interest of the business. And as an owner, whether that succeeds or that fails, ultimately it's my responsibility.
Sure.
So it wasn't like flipping a switch, but it's been an evolution.
That's awesome. And it's a hard thing. A lot of people think it's easy because, oh, you've got a business that's in motion. Yeah, but just a different challenge than, say, a startup to do kind of a reimagining of an existing entity. It's still a lot of the same heavy lifting, and I think a lot of people don't fully realize that it's just a different set of muscles, but you're still doing the heavy lifting.
Right.
And so let's get back to the family dynamic for a moment. So at some point, for a number of years, you were working under your dad's leadership, but then upon acquiring the business, that dynamic flipped. And now your father was working in a business that you now owned. Just talk about that, because a lot of second gens go through some version of that transition. So just talk about that for a moment, what that was like, both emotionally and maybe operationally.
Yeah. And I'm going to give your podcast a little plug here. I have enjoyed hearing these second generation owners and leaders come together and tell their story, because it's helped.
Oh, good.
It's like a little therapy session here. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, having my dad work for me now and in the past, 8 years has definitely been an emotional transition. He built the original business. There's a lot of respect and gratitude there. But at the same time, when the roles shifted, things can get a little complicated, as you can imagine. So we've had to learn how to communicate in a new way. Yeah, it's still bumpy at times, even after since 2017. Operationally, it meant getting really clear about roles and expectations. And they definitely get blurred often. There's times when I'm like, wait, who's in charge here? So yeah.
That sounds awfully familiar for me as a fellow second gen during the transition.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, I feel lucky. I mean, not every family gets the opportunity to evolve over generations this way.
So talk about this for a minute. You've clearly reimagined the salon and that experience, and that in a way that aligns with your values, your culture, your vision. But by same token, as you said, there's a lot of gratitude that you pay your father for what he started and what he put into motion. What are some aspects of your father's vision that you think will naturally carry forward? Maybe certain things, the way he did certain things or how he approached certain things. What are some aspects of those learnings or his legacy that you say, well, those will always be here?
Yeah. Well, the business is about the people, right? So the clients are first and foremost the most important person when they walk in that door. That's how you always want to make them feel. And my dad truly loves his clients, really does. It's probably keeping him from retiring. He loves them so much. So client number one. But I think respecting the things that were important to him, but at the same time evolving into what is important to me. And that's been a muscle that I've had to build a little bit. And every so often I have to flex it a little bit. I mean, the legacy matters because it represents years of hard work on his part. I'll never lose sight of that. But at the same time, every generation brings its own perspective. There's his generation, there's my generation, and then there's another generation that I'm working with now. So there's 3 generations, maybe even 4.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a dance sometimes, but I really feel like honoring his legacy and honoring legacy in general, and by respecting it, it strengthens when you let it grow.
And that's a very interesting point you brought up, generational dynamics, as that applies both to, I'm imagining, the people that work as part of the stylists that are part of social, as well as the clientele, I would imagine, right? You're both leading 3 to 4 representative generations of personnel, and you're servicing the equivalent in clientele. So
yeah.
That's got to be tricky.
It's tricky. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing about the honoring the legacy. It's been last year was a great year. And last year, I reestablished a relationship with a distributor that has been around for a long time, probably going back to the 60s and 70s. And this distributor used to be a couple gentlemen who would walk around in briefcases and go to salon. My dad's salons being one of them.
Yeah.
This company was bought out by a larger company and has since kind of come back under a different model, but still under that family. It's kind of, yeah. So by reestablishing a relationship with that original family-owned company has been really, really cool.
Because cool.
It's kind of getting back to what it used to be, and kind of it's full circle. It's been
yeah. It's always great to hear stories like that. Speaking of the business model itself and the impetus for coming onto the show, it's an interesting one because your stylists operate almost like independent businesses within your business. A question that I'm really interested to hear your answer to is, how do you create a cohesive brand and identity while empowering essentially people who are individual entrepreneurs?
That's a really good question. First, let me start out by saying there's been a shift in the industry as of lately, and it's gone more towards the independent stylist. And by saying that, there's two ways. One is a booth rental, which means the stylist basically rents a station at a salon that participates in this model. The second is suites. And suites is you're not renting a station, you're basically renting a room, which has all the amenities that you would need. In both of those models, the stylist is responsible for developing their LLC, insurance, all of the things that go into actually formation documents, taxes, everything that would be involved in running their own business. At Social, we're a traditional salon. We're a commission-based salon. So, however, I do see each of my stylists, as you said, as individuals. And I feel really strongly about respecting them in that way. They all have their own individual styles, their own individual preferences, even their own individual pricing sometimes. So I'm there to support them. That is my biggest and most important job, is to support them. That is what I live for. So it's their livelihood. And one of the things I value the most is to let them express their own style. So I think when you do that, the salon becomes more of like a mosaic, right? Rather than a machine. So all these different perspectives and talents all work together to make something really dynamic. And that's what we have at the salon. These things and this cohesiveness that we have, you wouldn't get elsewhere. And I think that's how the culture needs to stay. That's how Social, that's what it is.
Yeah. That's what you stand for, right? That's why you named it what you did. It doesn't just apply externally, it applies internally, I guess. Yeah. Interesting. And certainly I would hazard to say that a lot of people, stylists, get into this business not to do all the backstage stuff, but to do the front stage stuff. By virtue of being part of a salon, they're somewhat liberated from all the I'd say the administrative side of the business.
You're exactly right. And a lot of it's not their forte. A lot of stylists want to do their craft and go home. So it's my job to allow them to be able to do that. And I take care of all the other stuff. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's how you are not only able to attract and great stylists, but also retain them. And you say, hey, you're going to be taken care of here. You're going to be part of our team and part of this culture. But within that infrastructure, you're free to express and be creative and do your craft in the best way you can. And I would have to think that's an appealing proposition to many.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hope so.
So, getting back around to culture, it sounds as though in Social, you're being very intentional about culture and the experience. How are you going about showcasing that to that experience for both clients and maybe future stylists that would come to the Social banner, if you will? How are you being deliberate about culture and putting that forward and demonstrating that every day?
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about culture without really talking about culture. So it's actually been, it can be very organic, and I feel like it was very organic in the beginning
Hmm.
at Social. I wasn't overly structured about it. And
Okay.
as our team grew,
Hmm.
I realized culture doesn't just happen. You really have to design it and you have to curate it. I'm very intentional about the experience on both sides of the chair. So from a client's perspective, I want them to feel like they are the most important person when they walk in that door. They are greeted, they are, by name, they are asked if they want a beverage, they are just really seen and welcomed into the salon. So it's very, very important. Same when they are leaving. And hopefully the whole time they are there, they really feel like they are important. The experience is everything, really is. From a stylist perspective, it means creating an environment where they have some freedom and some autonomy to express themselves. And amongst the stylists together, they have also that opportunity for collaboration, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of creativity that goes in that in those four walls. So it's lovely to see that collaboration happen. I really want each member of the team to have their own voice and style, and that's what I remember as a kid, making a salon space just one that I wanted to be in. So hopefully that projects over to the client. I think that would be the sweet spot, would be for when the client and their stylist really support each other, and I can see that connection. We work really hard to foster that.
Awesome. And it, I think, what resonated for me was how you caretake that end-to-end experience for the client, but also for the stylist, so that idea of understanding, and it sounds like there's a balance that you're always striking, that yes, if you're going to be part of this organization, there's a certain way we do things.
Yes.
In that framework, please, by all means, know that you're allowed to express your creativity and to have that level of autonomy that you need to be truly creative. Because I think at root, all stylists are creatives, right? It's a creative discipline, if you will. So that would seem to make sense. And, were you to manage them differently, you'd probably have a lot of disgruntled stylists who are saying, Michelle's like a dictator. She's telling us exactly what to do when, and she won't let us breathe, and probably won't stick around too long.
Yeah, that I don't think that would ever be me. I'm not a micromanager by nature. That's not me. I have a lot of trust in my team, and I'm very, very fortunate for that. Very fortunate that it really makes, I can only see, I have my perspective, and then I have 19 other perspectives. So I like to be able to pull from their ideas and what they're seeing, and then ultimately it's my decision. They are creatives, but they still require structure. I think without that, there's chaos, and nobody works well in that, even, the most creative person. So,
yeah, I think it gets back to, again, it sounds like a balance, There's got to be a framework. There's got to be a foundational experience that clients have when they end to end, when they walk through that door and from the moment they walk out the door and everywhere in between. But within that, there's also a level of expressiveness that can be allotted for and created for. So that's great.
Yeah. And that's where I see the salon business being B2B, because I'm seeing them all conduct their own businesses under one roof. And it's really lovely to watch.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Giving us whole new insights and meaning behind what it's like to operate in a business such as yours. And that's really awesome.
Thanks.
So you were down a path before. It was more of a corporate path, and maybe not as, I'll say, family friendly. You left that to build something that, more aligns with your goals and lifestyle goals, and, with some encouragement from your husband, this new path you're on now. So talk for a moment about how now owning the business has changed your relationship dynamic when it comes to work and family. How is that playing out?
When my kids were little, it was great to have that flexibility, as I said before. So definitely the right choice for my family. Now my kids are older. The business is taking up more of my time. I'm working more than ever now. I'm working differently than I ever have now. So yes, there are late nights, there's Saturdays, a lot of conversations that follow me home and to the dinner table and beyond.
Okay.
My husband, Jim, is, he's a partner on this journey for so many reasons. He's a soundboard. He's a mirror. He likes to remind me that he's not on payroll, but he performs lots of duties, including, any project that we can imagine. He's, taking it on. So I have a lot of gratitude to him.
That's great. And a worthy sounding board because, his upbringing around that business is common to yours. So there is that common frame of reference that you're coming home to. It's not like you're talking about an industry he knows nothing about. Well, I'm not saying he knows all about it, but he's seen a lot of it, right? He's seen all sides of it. And by knowing you, he's seen all about the backstage too. So that's great that you have that commonality.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Let's look to the future for a moment. What does growth look like for social going forward? Is it, do you envision more locations, deeper community engagement, a stronger regional brand, or is it something totally different, Michelle?
So there's two things, right? There's growth and evolution. We've had some recent growth. In 2023, we went through a huge change. We actually acquired another local salon. So this brought us from 5 stylists to over 15 stylists, still under the same roof. Yeah. So we've become really good at making it work. I have a great support staff and back-end staff and the stylists. We all work really well together in making that work. So I'm very grateful for them. One of the nice surprises of this whole process was that the previous owner from the other salon, the other local salon, which was literally a quarter mile down the highway from me, we had never met somehow. And when the opportunity came up and we started discussing this transaction, we realized we had a lot of respect for one another and a lot of commonalities and a lot of differences. So through this transaction, we built a really wonderful friendship. She now works for me. And it's kind of been one of those unexpected gifts that came out of the whole experience.
Well, so let's talk about that a little further. So you went through an integration, an acquisition, if you will. Talk about that for a moment. What was it like to go from, to more than, almost triple your population of stylists under management and introduce that population, because I'm assuming they abided by the previous culture and ownership to indoctrinate them into the social experience, if you will. What was that like?
A process.
Okay.
It was a process. I don't, you think it's, and you don't know really. You think how can I say this? So that they were in business for 20 years.
Okay.
Me having been in business for 8 years, we did things a little bit differently. And, different clientele, different ways of doing business. And it caused me to have to really step up, Ed. And I'm...
How so? Like, how did you have to step up?
I had to learn to manage a bigger staff. I had to learn to manage a staff that was used to doing things a different way. So taking some of the ways that I did things at social and taking some of the things that they were used to doing and putting it together and making it work for all of us has been a process. And we're doing really well. We've created a great place that we all respect, and a lot of different personalities in there. And it's been wonderful to see.
Well, I think you're really bringing forth in a very authentic and honest way. It is a progression. It is a journey because, let's face it, and this is something that people don't always fully understand when a leader goes through an acquisition. Up until that moment, what your knowledge base was running social at its current size.
Right.
Now it's flux of 15 more people. So yeah. Your first day walking back into the same door you've walked through, 1,000 times was a brand new experience.
It was crazy.
Because you were, most people take for granted what we as leaders know, but at that moment, you were brand new to that experience, right?
Yeah. So I was walking my business, and I looked around and there was all new people there. And it was wild. It was really wild. But I've learned, I've learned that there's not one. We've had to pivot a few times, and it's always been towards a better way, a better process. I've learned that there's not one right way of doing things. It's really been an evolution that's been in the best interest of the business.
And it looks like, by all indications, you seem pretty happy about where things are going, and so that acquisition and that integration, while a journey and a learning experience, and definitely some, pivots, as you said, along the way, has overall been a very enriching experience for you by all indications. You're smiling, you're happy, and it sounds like the future is looking pretty bright.
Yeah, I think it is. You asked about growth in size. I've seen a lot of businesses who they have taken on a second location, or they've, signed a bigger property, I can't say that's out of the question. We're always considering other options to make the stylist and the clients more comfortable and make the business just better. But I also know that the structure, any structure, it's not because of the size of it, right? Your home is not a home because it's of its size. It's about the people under the roof. And I believe we have the best people working for us. We have the best clients that come in that door. So we just want to make the experience for that client and those employees the best that we can.
Awesome. Last question. If somebody wants to connect with you to learn more about your story, or to learn more about social, or even to venture there as a patron, what's the best way for them to do that and connect?
Yeah. So we're located in White House Station on Route 22. So we're in New Jersey. They can find the Salon on social, the Salon on Instagram. I'm also on Instagram, Michelle Renda Gill, and I'm on LinkedIn also with that same name. I like LinkedIn. I kind of use it 75% business, 25% fun,
Okay, excellent. And as a full disclosure, a longtime client of First Act 2 and then Social, and I can attest to the transformation that Michelle has made, and the journey she's been on has been really remarkable. And all in all, it looks like many good things ahead. So,
thank you.
Absolutely. So to wrap it up, this episode is really a reminder that second generation leadership is not about repeating what was built. It's about evolving it. Michelle's journey shows that sometimes the path we resist becomes the platform we were meant to lead from. When legacy meets reinvention, something powerful can happen. Michelle, thank you for sharing your story and for bringing a perspective, absolutely, on what entrepreneurship can look like and across generations. Again, we've been speaking with Michelle Gill, owner of Social, and I'm your host, Ed Delia, and this has been another episode of Growing Up B2B. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. You were great.
Thanks, Ed.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into Growing Up B2B. To explore more episodes and insights, visit podcast.delianet.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating or review on your podcast platform of choice. Having worked with hundreds of family-led businesses across my career, and being a second-generation leader myself, I'm on a mission to help every family business I meet achieve next-level growth for their organization. So feel free also to connect with me on LinkedIn, and let's support each other. You can also find out more about my company at delianet.com. Again, I'm your host, Ed Delia, and thanks so much for joining us today. Take care.